Caleb Williams and Jaxson Dart shine in week 2 of the preseason. We'll tell you what that means for their dynasty values next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Michael Fabiano. You can follow him on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. You can check out all of his great work over on SI. And on today's show, we're taking a look at week 2 of the NFL preseason, which, again, we shouldn't overreact to anything we see in the preseason, but we will. Let's start with some winners, Fabs. And I want to start with Caleb Williams, who kind of dominated on Sunday Night Football a little bit against that Buffalo Bills second-team defense. He looked incredible.
He did. I'm disappointed you didn't mention my DeMarcus Ware jersey here before we got into this.
I was with you when you
don't wear
great.
You will never see me wear a jersey in public. I'm just not like a jersey wearing in public kind of guy, but for the show, why not? I may throw a few in there. But he did look good. Now, you did mention Bill's second-team defense, but it was great to see him looking like the quarterback that we all hope and expect that he will be. And there are no more excuses for Caleb. He has now got Ben Johnson, an offensive-minded head coach. You could argue he was the most coveted coaching candidate of the entire offseason. And
our Cowboys didn't interview him. By the way, that's besides the point.
Can you really?
No, it's okay. That's for Locked On
Yeah,
Cowboys.
you know, I'm getting excited about Caleb Williams. And you got to throw the Cowboys in there. Jerry Jones being a dummy. Anyways, so yeah, it was great to see that. And that's the kind of quarterback that we hope that we're going to get, because the reports in training camp, Marcus, have kind of been like up and down, up and down. He looked good. He looked good. He looked good. He didn't look good. So, yeah, he looked good. And again, the excuses are out the window. Ben Johnson's the head coach, offensive-minded coach. You've brought in Colson Loveland. You've brought in Luther Burden. The weapons are there. There's no question about that. But, I wouldn't and I saw everyone on X. And I even said, hey, that was a pretty good drive for Caleb. So everyone goes nuts. But, don't get crazy. Don't start moving Caleb Williams way up in your rankings, although in Dynasty he's already pretty high because he's young and the upside's there. But it was a positive. It was good to see what he can be in this league and the Bears offense, what it can be potentially with Ben Johnson calling the shots. Overall for the Bears, outside of the backfield situation, it was a really good, positive night from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of the other players in that offense in a little bit, but Caleb just looked confident, right? And even if that first drive didn't lead to a touchdown, it did. Obviously, that second throw that he made down the seam that he just ripped to Colson Loveland, that's just down a throw that he was making last year. He has complete confidence in this offense, and you saw Ben Johnson doing some fun things with him, like under center play action shots, rolling him out to get him some easy completions to get him going. It was just a very, very positive night. And we needed this because his dynasty value has been falling actually over the last couple of months. At one point, he was up to quarterback 8, quarterback 9. He's down to quarterback 11 in the recent batch of ADP that we had. Guys like Justin Herbert have jumped him. There is a 5-spot difference now between Drake May and Caleb Williams. He kind of needed this type of performance to boost back up his stock. And it was good to see.
Yeah, no question about that. I'm a Drake May fan, so I think they're very close in terms of dynasty value, even though Williams gets more of the buzz, let's put it that way. But if you have him in dynasty, if you're thinking about drafting him in dynasty, this was a good performance. Let's see what he can do throughout the rest of camp and into that final preseason game. And maybe we'll see some more positive things from Caleb Williams that will boost his value up as we get closer to the start of the regular season.
All right, the other quarterback I wanted to talk to you about was Jaxson Dart, who again played behind Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson did hit a 70-yard moon ball.
I know, right out of the gate. Yeah,
right out of the gate.
Too, because everyone was like, that's why I'm drafting Malik Neighbors. It wasn't Malik Neighbors.
It's true. I feel like those moon balls are going to be directed to Darius Slayton, one of my favorite sleepers. But anyways, Jaxson Dart looked good for their second straight week. It seems like there's a push for the Giants to just go ahead and start Dart ahead of Russell Wilson. I don't think that's going to happen. But I have to say, just based on what we've seen in the preseason, I am more excited about Dart than I thought I would be. I did not love him during the pre-draft process. I didn't love the fit with the Giants, but I'm starting to warm up to him a little bit.
I liked him coming out of Ole Miss. And a big part of it is big arm, and he can run with the ball. He's not Jaden Daniels, but he can run with the ball. So he can make plays with his feet. That's big. And he has done nothing but look great in the preseason. And, it's funny, between him and Travion Henderson, like we're going to have two guys who we can really kind of gauge whether or not the preseason means anything when it comes to some rookies and what they eventually do during the regular season. But he's looked good. And I mean, to me, you're looking at the quarterback position. You look at a young quarterback who is going to be the Giants starter, probably not in week 1, but I would guess at some point during the regular season, because the Giants are not a team that's projected, or that I project, to be a playoff contender. So this is a kid who's going to play as a rookie, and there will be ups and downs, but he has shown that through a couple of preseason games, albeit, not against NFL starting defenses, you got to all take that into consideration. He got a little confidence, Mark. He's got a little moxie, and you kind of like that.
Yeah, I like the way that he played. He was aggressive. He's making plays down the field. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when he comes in the game, Brian Dable's just calling a faster paced offense. And that can be great for us for fantasy and dynasty, right? Like if they're just going to run a bunch of plays with Dart, which is what kind of Ole Miss did. They just like to have play in this hurry up, fast paced offense where you're running a bunch of plays. That's how he can be a successful quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
And for dynasty purposes, right now he's up to quarterback 25. He's jumped guys like Tua Tagovailoa, Geno Smith, Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold. Are you buying him?
I mean, why wasn't he ahead of those guys anyway?
Well, because yeah. QB 25. Are you in or out?
No, I'm in. I'm definitely in. In fact, I've got a rookie only draft coming up. I think next Saturday. Now is when I'm like slaughtered with drafts. Like it's like, if I don't have like my Outlook calendar, I'm going to miss drafts because I have so many coming up. But it's a 2 QB league, and I have Russell Wilson in that league, and I have the 6th overall pick. Obviously, it's super flex. I think I'm going to take Jaxson Dart if he's there at number 6, because then that sort of solidifies the quarterback spot in New York for me. And I just like the kid. I think that he has what it takes to succeed in New York. He's confident, and he's good looking, right? I mean, like he's probably going to end up being on billboards in Times Square at some point. He's a good fit, and I don't know who the coach is going to be long term. It may or may not be Brian Daboll. We're not sure, but I do like what I've seen from him, and I did like him when I looked. And I don't watch college football, but I'll watch tape, YouTube. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. And I like what I saw on tape from him.
Speaking of drafts, we have some news for you guys on a draft. If you want to play with us in a Locked On Dynasty Listener League, so check out tomorrow's show. We'll do it in the first segment of tomorrow's show to get the full details of how to join a draft with us. So be on the lookout for that. But let's go ahead and talk.
Listen, anytime I could draft with Marcus Mosher, I am in.
Stop it.
I am in.
Let's talk about some day 2 rookies who were big winners over the weekend. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything: cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That is where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something that you read on the internet or saw on social media. I found that therapy for me isn't just navigating major challenges. It's about also building positive coping skills and learning how to set boundaries. So talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Fabs, let's talk about some day 2 rookies who were big winners of the weekend. And honestly, we probably should start with Quinshon Judkins, who is not going to face any criminal charges. He didn't play this weekend. He still is not signed with the Browns. But this just opens up the door for him to play at some point this season and probably early in the year.
This is the best case scenario. It really is. I mean, and I've done a few drafts already, like Scott Fish and out in Canton for the Expo. I took Judkins. I got him in like round 8 or 9 because I'm like, I'm gonna roll the dice. And from what some people were telling me, like there's more to the story than the media's letting on. So first, I just want to let everybody out there know like what the process is. So the prosecutors have declined to file a formal misdemeanor battery charge against Judkins because of the whole thing that happened in Florida. And so he's still not signed. And the NFL, and from what my sources are telling me, he's going to be with the team this week. He's expected to be with the team this week. And also, my sources also say that there's not a guarantee that he will be suspended. He might be. And then you have to go back to what happened with Ezekiel Elliott. You guys remember that? This was, 7-8 years ago where he got suspended for like 6 games, but he wasn't arrested. But the accuser came forward and did interviews with the NFL, and the NFL believed their story, and that's why they suspended Zeke. So the woman in the situation with Judkins, the NFL is going to want to talk to her, and if she comes forward and they believe her, then Judkins will get probably suspended for I don't know how many games. But if she doesn't come forward and doesn't talk to the NFL, they probably have nothing to go on, and Judkins doesn't get suspended. So, like, there's still a lot that has to happen here in the next couple of weeks. And I hate that I'm talking fantasy football when we're talking about allegations this. But unfortunately, that's kind of like in the situation what we have to do. So that's what you need to keep tabs on because the NFL can still suspend him. NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy said that they've been following the developments and everything remains under review. But now I'm not saying he's going to be the starter in week 1 if he's not suspended because he's hadn't been with the team. It may be a slow burn with Judkins. But the bottom line here is from a fantasy perspective, this was the best case scenario. I don't know what happened. If it's a he said, she said, they don't have the proof. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on YouTube. Okay. But now you're going to see Judkins' value starting to rise back up.
Yeah.
Where over the last couple of weeks, you could say he was a massive risk. People are like, he may not play in the NFL and blah, 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 blah. Folks, come on. He was a 2nd round pick at the top of the 2nd round almost. He was going to play. It just, this whole thing had to be dealt with. And now it's, it's to the point where now that he's not going to be, there's nothing. The NFL can decide to suspend him if the alleged victim comes in and talks about the situation and what happened. And if she doesn't, he won't be. So if you had dropped him, you got to move him back up. And remember, a suspension will be this year. That's it. And if it's 2 games, if it's 4 games, if it's 6 games, I don't know. But that's it. And then you got the Browns featured back, at least in my projection, for I don't know how many years, as long as he keeps his head on straight. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So Quinshon Judkins really dropped an ADP over the last
big time.
Month. Down to RB21. At one point, he was like in the RB13, RB14 range. Now, if you're doing your rookie drafts, and we did a rookie draft, I think it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where we had him as, I think, the very last pick.
I took him last. Yeah.
Yep. My guess is if you're doing your rookie drafts over the next 2 weeks, you're not going to get him in that spot because he's going to continue to rise back up as more information comes out. And again, if it's a 2-game suspension, a 4-game suspension, we just don't really care all that much. The Browns' schedule is incredibly tough to begin the year. It gets easier as it goes along, but you're drafting Judkins because of what he can do maybe down the road into the future with this Browns offense. Right. So this is all good news for Judkins in his NFL future. Again, more information needs to come out. Last thing, that Zeke thing, 10 years ago, buddy, not 7 years, 10 years ago. We're getting
old. Oh my God. Was it that long?
Yeah. 2016, he was drafted.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. I know we're getting old. Let's talk about some other day 2 rookies who shined in week 2 of the preseason. Isaac Tesla. We're just always going to say it that way. Tesla.
Tesla. I like saying Tesla.
Yeah. He played really, really well. And again, I had a draft on Saturday, and it was an auction draft, and Jameson Williams' names came up, and the first thing I thought of is, could Isaac Tesla like make him not irrelevant for fantasy, but not all that valuable? I don't know. I don't know what to think about these Lions pass catchers outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So first off, it's been a great start for him. Really good, right? He had 41 yards and a touchdown. He was good in the Hall of Fame game. And so people are starting to talk about him. But he's still behind Tim Patrick. And Tim Patrick, I get it. Like, Tim Patrick is a good wide receiver.
He's a good player. Yeah.
He's a good player. I mean, he's had injury issues. Like, so there's a world where Tim Patrick completely makes Tesla, at least this year, invalid and not valuable and from a fantasy perspective. But if we're looking long-term in Dynasty, and that's what we're doing, there is a really good chance with Patrick only on a 1-year deal that this could end up being a situation where Tesla is starting as soon as maybe 2026. And Patrick's had injury issues too. So maybe he gets in a few starts this season. But I would not get nuts. Now, his ADP is 191, and he's the wide receiver 81. I think he should be higher than that.
I agree.
But again, folks, don't get crazy. Like, it's great. Okay, he's on your radar now. But ultimately, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and Sam Laporta are always going to be ahead of him on the depth chart and in the pecking order for targets. And you got the backfield, which is phenomenal, with Jameer and David Montgomery. So don't get nuts, but he should be on your radar, and he certainly should be drafted in Dynasty.
One other player that I wanted to mention was Luther Burden, who caught, I think, 3 passes with the second-team offense for the Bears on Sunday night. So that part of it's not great. However, with these preseason games, like, some of it is how you're playing. And we also get like these little nuggets that come from the broadcast. And we got a really good one from Greg Olson, who was talking to Ryan Poles, the GM of the Bears, before the game, getting ready. And even Greg Olson's like, hey, I shouldn't be sharing this. And Ryan's going to be mad at me. But Ryan believes that Luther Burden is going to be better than Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. And they think he's more dynamic, and they want to run the offense through him. And again, we're not saying that
you are so here for this too.
Yeah, of course I am.
Love Luther Burden. Underneath your Locked On sweater is a Luther Burden t-shirt, I think.
It's a polo, but yes. 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 But again, I'm not saying to go out and draft Luther Burden or trade for Luther Burden, give up Rome Odunze. But I do think it's interesting that the GM of the Bears believes he can be the best of all 3 of the receivers. And we should mention, like, Greg Olson was like loving all the effort he was giving as a blocker. And that's the kind of stuff that he's going to need to do if he wants to get a role in this offense.
I need to find a woman who loves me as much as Marcus Mosher loves Luther Burden. I can tell you, and it might be a slow burn with Burden. You get what I did there? Because I think Olamide Zaccheaus could end up being the starter in week 1 as the slot man, but obviously long-term, they love Burden. Listen, this Bears offense has got all the looks of potentially being very good in the pass attack. The ground game, I don't know. I still think you need to, at some point in the very near future, need to upgrade over DeAndre Swift. But I really do feel like Caleb and Moore, and I don't buy that he's going to be better than Rome, because I dig Rome. And, you've got Loveland. So there's a lot of mouths to feed there. But people need to remember that 2 years ago at Missouri, Burden was awesome. And then last year, for whatever reasons, the numbers were not that great. He was awesome. He's got the talent to be very good. In Dynasty, I just wonder, are the targets going to be there on a regular basis, consistent basis, enough for him to have wide receiver 2 flex value? Obviously, we'll see what the Bears do with their receivers moving forward. But, a lot of these guys are young. Burden obviously is very young. Rome's very young. DJ Moore is in the prime of his career. Colson Loveland's obviously very young. Cole Kmet is in the prime of his career. So I think you got to step back and, take a look at what this offense looks like. But yeah, I mean, he's got big potential. There's no question about that.
I'm in.
I know you're in.
Wide receiver 39 right now on Dynasty League football, behind players like Cortland Sutton, Devontae Adams, who's 32. Even someone I'm a big fan of Jordan Addison. I would prefer Luther Burden over Jordan Addison. So Well, I'm
You love
aggressive
him.
here.
I
Again,
know.
like what we saw, he made some plays after the catch. He's doing all of the little things. Stock up. That's all I have to say.
All right.
Let's talk about some tight ends who really shined in week 2 of the preseason. We'll get to Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland next. This episode is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, Fabs and I are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. And to kick it off, they've just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team each week is eliminated until there's only one team left standing. And with the season right around the corner, now is the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. And if you're into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. So stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast with Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk. Listen every day to prep for your fantasy draft and become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's trophy this season. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, let's talk about some rookie tight ends, Fabs. And I want to start with Tyler Warren, who played 13 of 14 snaps with the first-team offense. This weekend, he's played all but one offensive snap with the Colts in their first team offense. It's so clear that they're going to have a big role for him, and I couldn't be more excited.
I love him. When he went to Indianapolis, I loved it. And what I'm seeing in the preseason, I love it. Is he going to be Sam Laporta or Brock Bowers out of the gate? Probably not, because those guys, I guess 2 unicorns. I don't know. It doesn't happen where, rookie tight ends go number 1 at the end of the season in points, but it's happened now 2 years in a row. So, what the hell do I know, I guess. But I love Warren long-term because not only is he a very good pass catcher, he can block. We've talked about the fact that he rushed for like over 200 yards at Penn State last year. So you can use him in any number of manners. And I think this is a very good thing when it comes to his snaps, his routes run, his time on the field. He's not coming off the field. So, and you look at this kid, young guy who is going to be a big part of this Colts offense for a long, long time, no matter who the quarterback is going to be, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones or somebody else. He is going to be a big part of this offense. And I think he can end up being the best tight end the Colts have had since Dallas Clark. I really do. I keep saying that. But he's a first-round dynasty starter, a first-round dynasty rookie only pick. There's no question about that. He deserves to be one of the top 5 tight ends drafted in startups. I like him that much. Like I'm all in on, much like Marcus loves Luther Burden. I definitely love Tyler Warren, and he is a player that will be your tight end 1 for a long, long time in fantasy.
So can we compare and contrast Colson Loveland with Tyler Warren? Because Loveland also looked really good in the preseason. The first 2 targets in that Bears game last night, both went to Loveland, including the one down the seam where just an awesome ball, right? Like he's going to be used all over this offense. I like both players a lot. I actually liked Loveland maybe a little bit more coming out of Michigan, but I'm having a really hard time deciding between these 2 players because in one sense, I just like Caleb Williams a lot more than I like whatever the Colts are throwing out there. I like what Warren can do better after the catch, but they both have a lot of weapons. Like the Colts they don't lack weapons, right? They've got Michael Pittman. They've got A.D. Mitchell. Josh Downs is a really good slot receiver. Alec Pierce can make plays down the field. So how are you valuing and ranking these 2 rookie tight ends?
I get back to back. I got Warren first. Who was the quarterback in Las Vegas last year when Brock Bowers went for 112 catches?
Was it Gardner Minshew for a little
I mean,
bit.
it was right.
Aiden O'Connell,
It was
Desmond Ritter.
It was caca. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It's all about targets. It's all about opportunities. And I think Warren's going to get them no matter who the quarterback's going to be. And listen, I understand like people want to say Colson Loveland's going to be the next Sam Laporta. Okay. Sam Laporta was great in his rookie year last year. Right. I mean, so, and again, the Bears have a lot of good young players in the pass attack. They've compiled a very good young offense. And so how much of that is, and what happens if Cole Kmet sticks around, which I don't know that they're going to keep him around. I have no idea, but what happens in that scenario? So, you know, how many teams in the history of the National Football League have had two tight ends who can catch the ball and are big parts of the offense and also big fantasy performers? I'm not sure that there's been that many. I love Loveland. Again, I'm a poet and didn't know it, I guess, but I totally understand. I love the talent. I love the offense that he's in. But like Brock Bowers, there was nobody last year in Las Vegas. And the year before in Detroit, you know, Jameson Williams wasn't kind of Jameson Williams yet. And was it 2 years ago where he was suspended or he missed some time? So off the top of my head, I don't remember. But there's a lot more talent in Chicago. And I will name drop right now. My pal Seth freaking Rollins, who I was texting with last night during the game, he is a big Bears fan. He loves the Bears. Loves them. Okay? He even thinks that Loveland, and he watched like this, he's really good. Like Seth's really into the Bears. He knows a lot about football. He even said he thinks it's going to be a little bit of a slow burn with Colson Loveland because Kmet's there because they have so much talent. But I think ultimately, like, he will be a tight end one in fantasy. I just like Tyler Warren better. That's just me, personal preference.
Who do you think, in terms of dynasty perspective, has the higher floor between Loveland and Warren?
Warren.
Who do you think has the higher ceiling?
I honestly, Warren.
Okay, so then for you, it's pretty simple, right?
It's like, Warren. Yeah, yes, I'm in. Yeah.
Okay. I think for me, the thing is, I just want to be really aggressive going out and getting either of these two guys. Right now on Dynasty League Football, Tyler Warren is tight end 4, George Kittle tight end 5, Colson Loveland tight end 6. There's a decent gap between Kittle and Loveland. I would not draft them that way. I would have Warren and Loveland right next to each other.
Yes.
I want one of those two guys on my dynasty team. And I think I prefer Loveland, but I'm good either way.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, I just got to throw this out there. I run a dynasty. I run like 3 dynasty leagues. And one of my dynasty leagues is a slow draft. And earlier in the show, we talked about Jaxson Dart. This is an example of don't draft with your heart. I'm not going to name who had the number 1 overall pick, but that person is a Giants fan. And he took Jaxson Dart with the number 1 overall pick in a rookie-only draft ahead of Ashton Genty. Don't be that guy. And I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast because he's a big dude and he kicked my butt.
I hope he does. That'd be great.
Thanks. What, you want to do the show by yourself? That's fine, Mosher. Right. Okay.
All right. So there you go. All right. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about the biggest losers. I'm using air quotes losers because you can't be a big loser in the preseason, but there are some players that lost some value. At least we think so. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Also, make sure you tune in for the details of the Locked On Dynasty Listener League that we're going to do. Again, that'll be in segment 1. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you're following Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.